Jana, I want to do high ticket. I mean, that's so important to me, like to serve my clients at the highest level, to really, you know, focus on quality and not quantity. But my audience can't afford it. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about why that's not true and give you some different ways to position yourself within your messaging, to your mindset, to your sales process that will actually make that statement completely false. So, hello, everybody. I'm Jana Nixa. Thank you for staying with me through those technical difficulties. In this video, we are going to talk all about how to attract those premium leads, how to understand deeply the process that high ticket leads are not found, they're created, and how to go about proving that to yourself over and over again in your sales process. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Jana Nixa. I am a high ticket sales coach that helps you create high converting, high ticket offers and then teaches you a very simple sales process to convert those high ticket leads into high ticket clients. And so today we're talking all about that concept of my audience can't afford it, right? I have an audience that's broke, all of the things. Now, listen, after 40,000 sales calls and working with hundreds of clients and decades now of experience, here's what I've found to be true about enrolling people, premium pricing, and all of the things. What you think about is what you're going to expect. Okay. So I'm going to start there. And for any of you that's like, wah mindset, just give me the goods on the strategy. Listen, I'm not going to have you rearranging deck furniture on the Titanic. If you don't believe that people in your audience can't afford it, if you don't believe that high ticket buyers are everywhere, if you don't believe that people pay for things they want, then the rest of this is going to be meaningless because you're going to go about proving that to yourself and making sure it's true. Because our ego and our mind loves to be right. So it will do everything it can to prove it. So I would highly suggest the first thing we do is decide that that's not true. So one of my most favorite clients, she was a TikToker and she had over 150,000 followers. And when she came to me, she had that very same belief. Now, do you think for a second out of 150,000 people that there was not someone that could afford working with her? Right? She said, they're all tire kickers. They get on my calls, then they waste my time and tell me they can't afford it. So the first thing we did in that situation is I double checked her offer. It was dialed in. It was great. That piece was already intact. Second thing we looked at is her messaging, right? Like, who is she speaking to? Because if you're talking broke person language, low ticket language, those are the people that are going to get on the calls with you. So you're probably saying, okay, well, what does that language look like, Jana? Well, that looks like talking about things like you're stuck, you're super frustrated, you're not getting anywhere, like pain point marketing. What that's going to do is speak to people who are in far too much pain to understand the value of investing or to even think that they're worth investing in and are probably stuck in a lot of victim mode and lack consciousness. And so we have to position ourselves with our messaging and speak to those premium buyers by speaking to their identity and who they are and where they want to go. Okay. And that's so important and a piece that so many people miss. And then they wonder why they're getting on the call with a bunch of broke people. And it's because they're not speaking to the people that can afford it. And again, back to the mindset piece, this happens for a number of reasons. One, because a lot of people teach that pain point marketing. Two, because people get nervous speaking to people with money. Frankly, they think, oh my God, how could I possibly help them? Right. And that self-worth imposter syndrome stuff starts to creep in. And three, is there a three? I think sometimes we underestimate how valuable we are. And when we do that by subconsciously, we just end up devaluing what we do and it shows up in our message. And I also think or that we don't believe that there's a lot of people that can afford it, and so think that it's better to speak to more people than less people. That's not true. We don't want to speak to everyone. We want to speak to the right people. So let's stop with, but if I speak that kind of language, it's only going to be a few people. But I would far rather have 10 great leads that are perfect fits for my thing than 100 leads that aren't. Okay. So we have to get our priorities straight. Now, the next thing we did was we switched up that messaging piece so that it was bringing more of the right people in, but we also needed to put in a screening process, an application process for her calls. Because she had 150,000 followers, you can imagine that there were people just wanting to get on and like fangirl with her, right? And so it's really important too that you put that in place so that you're asking the right questions and making sure the person who wants to come on the call is serious about making some changes, is serious about investing in themselves, and is serious about really doing it now. Because if otherwise, like, what is the point? And so putting that application process in place is going to help them only bring in the right people, because then they can look at the answers and see. And so, I mean, that can be as specific as, how long have you been in business? What revenue have you generated? All the way, what other things have you tried? What did you like? What did you not like? Like a lot of this stuff so that you can come to the sales call really ready and having a really dialed in picture of where they are and where they want to go. And of course, you're still going to talk about those pieces, but it really helps to know that you're starting with the right person. So that's the next thing. Another concept that I want to really start to demystify or debunk is this idea that, oh, but I have to start in low ticket and I have to nurture them all the way up until they become somebody that trusts me and likes me and knows me enough to buy my high ticket thing. And that's not true. I'm going to ask you right now, as a high ticket buyer, is that how you've always purchased? Have you had to follow people for months or even years before you decided to pull the trigger? Did you always work your way through their value ladder? Did you start at the low ticket thing and then sold into the next little ticket thing and all the way up and up and up until you became a high ticket buyer? Because here's what I found. Here's what I found for my clients. When you switch up your messaging and how you're speaking to that higher level person, those people like me, I'm a high ticket buyer. Like, I don't need to mess around in the low ticket space. Like, I can tell based on how you're communicating with me, on how you're describing my problem and how you're describing the solution and how dialed in you are on what's going to get me from here to there. It makes me feel seen and heard. And by default, it makes me feel like I can trust what you're doing, that you know what you're talking about, right? So, for example, there's been people in the past that I bought from that I didn't even really like. Like, I don't see myself being BFF with them, but I knew that they had the answer I was looking for. So I don't know. I don't really love it when people teach, well, you have to have like this whole know, like, and trust, and you have to like, you know, build this whole thing over a long period of time. Like, I think some people buy that way, but I think a lot of people, especially in high ticket, they know what they're looking for. They know where their gaps are. They know the support they want, and they're ready to pull the trigger. So like, keep space for that. I just got a hair. Sorry, you guys. Because it's really important that we don't assume that everybody has to go through this long process. I have popped into other people's rooms, given a training, and had them purchase high ticket things from me in less than 24 hours, like never having seen me prior to. So don't underestimate the value of a solid message and incredible sales skills. And no, I don't mean pushy, manipulative sales skills. I mean the ability to effectively communicate and help people see where their gaps are and where you fit nicely into those gaps. That is selling without selling. Because in my world, we should never have to convince, push, or manipulate anyone into anything. We just have to paint the picture of, listen, here's where you are, here's where you want to go, and what gives, like, why isn't it happening? and help them see how what you do is going to get them there. That's it. You're just helping them make a decision they already desire to make. So just help them see the process. Okay. So the last thing I want to talk about is this is an unpopular opinion warning. I think that freebies are dead. The reason I think this is because I think that what we want to do, and I don't care if it's a low ticket thing or how you want to build out this list, but we need a buyer's list. And it's not anymore about the size of your list, it's the quality of your list. Again, I've been preaching quality over quantity for years. And so, if you're on that freebie path and you're all about like, let me give value like I'm giving value here, right? Establish your credibility and your authority in other ways potentially. Or do the freebie, but make it something, $7, $11, like something. Because here's what happens with all of those freebies. We have gotten into take it for granted land, and most people will sign up for that freebie and never use it, not even open it. But if they have any skin in the game at all, they will. So when there is a no, think about when you've done it, even if it was a $7 thing, you're far more likely to look through it than you are if it were free. We just don't value free. That's all there is to it. So, just a few things to think about if you're trying to curate a more premium buyer audience, premium buyers like experience in your sales process. It's going on all the way through. It's from everything you're doing on the front end and how you're speaking to people to the expectations you're setting up as you bring them through the sales process, and then of course convert them in whatever it is, many one-to-many on a discovery call. But the point is, we don't get what we want, we get what we expect and what we think we deserve. Don't ever forget that when it comes to high ticket. It's a lot of belief, a lot of BS belief systems that are standing in your way, and then these few simple things can mean the difference between hearing like I can't afford it at 197 and invoice sent at 15K. And so whatever's coming up for you when you hear me say that, that's your resistance. So I'm going to leave you with that. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button, share it with others that need to hear it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye for now. Now let me end.